Tinubu has totally left Sheikh Gumi in shock. Of course, this is a very big shock, seeing that Sheikh Gumi before the election of 2023 was very emphatic that the North should not vote for any candidate that will acquire more weapons, more aircraft to fight bandits. And as we have it, Tinubu is not just acquiring more weapons against bandits. We can clearly see bandit leaders being arrested, just like we saw Mahmuda bandit leaders being arrested recently. I think this is perhaps the reason we recently saw even Sheikh Gumi shouting again that Mossad agents are in the country and that they will be targeting Muslim leaders. So you begin to wonder, why will a Sheikh Gumi be thinking in that direction? Though I do not have any classified information whether Mossad agents are in Nigeria, but let me quickly say that if Mossad agents are in Nigeria, and that is perhaps the reason we are recording success against the fight against insurgency, against banditry, I think it's a welcome development, even as I do not have such intelligence, because I recall that even a former House of Assembly member from Borno State recently made it clear that the mercenaries a Jonathan government brought in 2015, when the election of 2015 was postponed for 2 weeks, to enable the then government push Boko Haram out of Nigerian territory, were doing excellently well until Ebuari came in and jettisoned the idea and sent them packing.
During Jonathan, we brought mercenaries. They were about to finish Boko Haram. But because of our complacency and personal aggrandizement and personal interest, we asked them to go back. And we are still battling with the issue. I was in Borno State as a member of a state House of Assembly when the mercenaries were in Borno. They were less than 30. They operate in a place like this. Everybody with a laptop before him, observing what is happening in the bush. The moment they discover an enclave, they will be able to identify how many weapons do they have, what kind of weapons are they using, how many AK-47 do they have, how many explosives do they have. They will take only 3 or 4 people in a chopper, go and clear everything. They will snap pictures before clearing them and bring back exhibit. We are about to finish it. And because of interest, personal interest, that if we allow mercenaries to finish this thing, we are not going to get anything. How much was the bill given by the mercenaries? Even Russia is employing mercenaries to fight for them, isn't it? Are we stronger than Russia? Is there anything wrong if you can bring somebody that can fight for you? There's nothing wrong in that.
So the issue is, if actually there are mercenaries in Nigeria talking about Mossad agents and they are doing well, I think it's a welcome development. Like I told you, I do not have such intelligence. But the point is, I think the bandits are receiving it very hot this time around. Because apart from the 50 jets that Nigeria will be waiting for to receive anytime soon, we are equally seeing a serious bombardment against the bandits. Talking about the one that happened where, of course, about 78 or 76 Nigerians from Katsina State were rescued. And they form part of the people who were taken captive when bandits raided a mosque in Katsina State. So I think the likes of Sheikh Gumi should rather advise bandits to surrender and face prosecution rather than all this grandstanding. Because it makes no sense advising federal government to start negotiating with bandits. Telling government that you are, of course, when I saw that news the other time, I was shocked that a Sheikh Gumi will be telling federal government that bombing bandits, attacking bandits will make them harder. Who said they are not hardened before? And again, asking for amnesty for bandits. You begin to wonder, these are the same people Ebuari told us that they are not Nigerians, that they came from Burkina Faso, Mali, Libya, and other African countries. So what Gumi is telling the world is that people should be coming from other part of the world, other part of African country, converge here in Nigeria, and be asking for amnesty, and Nigeria will give them amnesty. This even as it was reportedly stated under Muhammad Buhari's government, that Muhammad Buhari's government reportedly paid Mietiala 100 billion naira to stop killing. Though at the time, Mietiala denied it, even federal government denied it, but it was all over the media space that the then government paid to stop killing. But again, let us quickly understand that there is nothing like repentant Boko Haram. There is nothing like repentant bandits. This is the position of the former governor of Kaduna State. I think I totally agree with him. This is not far-fetched, because we recently saw the video of a support repentant Boko Haram member who was reportedly reintegrated into Nigerian army. It happened that his supposed colleagues in the same army caught him, and they discovered that they wrapped ammunition around his waist, which he ostensibly was intending to go and send to his Boko Haram colleagues in the bush. So it then go to show that all the noise about repentant Boko Haram, de-radicalization and integration is just a strategy of the Boko Haram members, the leaders of Boko Haram and the leaders of bandits, maybe from the bushes, from the forest, seconding their lieutenants to come and pretend to be repenting or to have repented, so that they could be recruited into the Nigerian army, so that they could give their colleagues intelligence. Because if you look at the burning down of maritime military base, you begin to wonder that could have happened without an actionable intelligence on the part of the militants themselves, on the part of the terrorists themselves. Meaning they may have an insider who may have given them such intelligence that gave them the leverage to carry out such a successful operation. So the Nigerian government must be very careful, and the Nigerian army must be circumspect, because by the time you are bringing your enemies into your fold, it presents danger not just for the armed forces, their personnel, but for the generality of the public, because these are people who are in the front line defending the people. So if they now become vulnerable to be attacked, to be neutralized, and their military base being run down, it means everybody is in danger. That is why the country, the citizens, of course the patriotic ones, they are all in, of course the patriotic Nigerians are in synergy with the federal government to ensure that we stamp out bandits out of every territorial integrity of Nigeria. But let me quickly say that what the government need to do at this point is to go ahead and acquire monopoly of coercive power to deal with the likes of Toji Bello, to deal with the likes of Ada Eleru, because to negotiate with them will expose Nigeria as a weak state. Then again, you begin to imagine someone like Sheikh Gumi equally saying that governors who are opposing amnesty for bandits should not be taken seriously. So Nigerians should be bold enough to ask Sheikh Gumi a question, and the federal government should be bold enough to ask a question, because this is equally a character who was deported from Saudi Arabia. So Nigerian government should even be asking Saudi Arabia, what is the basis for which he was deported? Because it has been established that Fulani militias, for instance, of Nigerian extraction is the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. And if Sheikh Gumi could even be telling federal government that they are making bandits harder by bombing them, and that when they bomb them, that they are killing their family members, we need to ask, do family members of bandit leaders stay in the bushes, in the forest with their husband who are bandit leaders? Because recently we were made to understand that the armed forces, particularly the army, took out Toji Bello's cousin, who doubled as his field commander. It's a welcome development, but personally, I can never advocate for amnesty for bandits. I can never advocate for negotiation, because one thing is certain: once we start negotiating with bandits, like we saw in the case of Zamfara State and Katsina State, where the two state governors had conversation with Ada Eleru, I must say that is not acceptable. The only thing that is acceptable is those two state governors should synergize with federal government to see how best they can take them out, or let them be arrested, prosecuted, to act as deterrent to others. Because even the Zamfara state governor recently admitted that these bandits are people who they know where they hail from. So it got to show that a good number of the lieutenants or the bandits are Nigerians. Then if that is the case, his predicament is the command and control of Nigeria as a security architecture that comes from the top to bottom. So if that is the case, we should not be advocating for the jigging of our security architecture. Good enough, everybody have agreed that the security architecture should be rejigged, that the state police is the way to go. But unfortunately, we equally have those who stand to oppose state police. Because recently, when the Senate Committee, the Senate Committee for Constitutional Review visited Plateau State, and the Plateau State Governor, Mufwang, made a proposal for state police, we could clearly see Mietiala rising to say no, that they are against state police. So I think federal government should be bold enough to ask Mietiala a series of questions. Why should they be opposing state police? That is why I equally salute the courage of the Director General of DSS, talking about Ajayi, who made it clear recently that the communities should be empowered to be the first line of defense in case of invasion. And let me quickly say that we have seen so many successes recorded by the locals in the fight against banditry. We saw a bold one from Delta State that came from the axis of Abraka. We saw another one from Ogwashiku. We saw another one led by a local, of course, where he led the military into the bush to rescue kidnapped victims. Not just rescuing kidnapped victims, they ended up in neutralizing the bandits, ultimately. But again, let us even understand that even recently, a retired military intelligence officer made it very clear that the intention of those who sponsor Boko Haram, who sponsor terrorism, is to Islamize Nigeria. I think this is the greatest disappointment of Sheikh Gumi himself. Because the North haven't succeeded in bringing a Muslim ticket in that 2023 presidential election. They would have thought that all is huru, that they have succeeded in achieving their aim or perhaps Islamizing Nigeria. But I think this is their greatest disappointment, that even the Tinubu administration is not buying into their game. Because from the fight we are seeing against banditry, it's very clear that this administration is ready to stamp out banditry. That is why I equally say that every patriotic Nigerian is solidly behind the government to see that we chase and stamp out banditry out of every territorial integrity of this country. Because it is an evil wind that blow no one good. If they could be bold enough to attack a sitting governor, talking about when Samuel Ortom was the governor of Benue State, of course we saw an assassination attempt against his life. Where shortly after, we saw a Fulani group that goes by the Fulani nationality movement coming out to say, we did it. That the governor was lucky, that the then governor was lucky. That next time he could not be that lucky. So we should know that we are dealing with a very formidable force. A group that have been tagged as the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. Talking about Fulani military of Nigerian extraction. So the government must know that this is a serious issue. I equally note with concern, of course, sometime last year, where the Mietiala will be approaching Southeastern governors and requesting to float a vigilante group in an environment where that's alien to you. You are telling your host communities that you want to provide security for the environment. Though the governors rejected it, but the boldness with which they even came up with that proposal is questionable. Then, if Sheikh Gumi can even be comparing amnesty for Niger Delta militants and using that basis to request for amnesty for the bandits, I think is laughable. Because we all know what Niger Delta militants, their struggle represents. They were fighting for a better share of the resources, one, and the hazard associated with oil exploration in Niger Delta. Because if you go to Niger Delta and you see the impact of oil exploration in the environment, you will know that there is justification behind the fight by the militants. And even in the course of that fight, we saw the government officials visiting the then militants in the creeks. Jonathan was seconded then by Yaradua to visit the militants in the creek, and he came back successfully. Are we saying that if government officials are seconded to go and visit Ada Aleru, to go and visit Tojibelu, they will come back alive? Because these are known terrorists, known bandit leaders who have no value for human life. So I think it is very clear that what the Niger Delta militants represented is purely struggle for resource control. I think that best explains the reason the federal government then was at a dilemma, because all effort to make the world see them as terrorists prove abortive. Because the world knew that they were actually fighting for resource control. Because of course, that's the best world practice. And if you go and look at Ogoniland, for instance, Ogoni is perhaps the most polluted place in the whole world. And if you want to clean up Ogoni, you are talking about billions of dollars that will take you about 25 years. And little do they know that all the effort of Muhammad Buhari to clean up Ogoni was just politics. Because Buhari came in 2015 and initiated a quest to clean up Ogoni. Talk about the counterpart funding from the oil majors in the environment. Talk about the counterpart funding for the state, the one that will come from federal government. But at the end of the day, Buhari spent 8 years in Asurok, and nothing was done in terms of conscious effort to clean up Ogoni. And here we are, Sheikh Gumi will be bold enough talking about comparing the situation of Niger Delta with the bandits in the north. I must say that bandits are common criminals. Even if you say criminality was associated with the militants in Niger Delta, which I totally agree, but the two are not the same. They are two different things, two parallel lines that cannot meet. Because what justification do bandits have? Some of them have proven that they come from different parts of the world. Some other African countries converge in Nigeria. They take advantage of our poor borders. And somebody will be asking for amnesty, that government should give them amnesty. Amnesty on what basis? On the basis of killing Nigerians? On the basis of taking arms against the sovereign state of Nigeria? The best Nigeria could do is to go ahead to acquire monopoly of coercive power, to treat them in a language they best understand. Because these are known criminals and terrorists. Let me say very big thank you for your time. This is Santa Midana. Thank you so much.